Saved by the Bell plays like pure comfort. Bright lockers, loud colors, big hair, the Max glowing like a neon safe zone, and a theme song that tells you everything is going to be fine before the first scene even starts. It's Zack Morris freezing time to talk straight to you like you're part of the plan. Slater sliding in like the school's built-in action hero. Jessie going full intensity over something small until it suddenly feels massive. Everything moves fast, everything feels easy. But under that sugar rush, the cracks start showing. One dance moment became instant Bayside legend, the kind of scene fans replay like muscle memory. The chemistry between the cast wasn't always just acting either. Zack and Slater's tension got real enough to spill into an actual fight on set. And years later, nostalgia itself got turned into something sharper, something heavier, until the reunion fantasy people held onto started breaking apart. These are 11 weird facts about Saved by the Bell, the teen sitcom that looked simple, sounded safe, and somehow got weirder the older you got. Number 1. For years, Saved by the Bell sold Zack Morris like the guy you were supposed to love. He had the smile, the freeze-frame timeouts, the blonde hair, the confidence. He moved through every episode like the coolest kid in the room, the one the show kept inviting you to root for no matter what he did. Then people grew up and watched him again, and suddenly, Zack didn't look like a lovable rebel anymore. He looked like a kid who manipulated his friends, sabotaged people when it suited him, and treated almost every situation like a chance to run a scam before cleaning it up at the end. The charm was still there. That was the problem. The show kept rewarding behavior that looked a lot uglier once you were old enough to stop watching it through sitcom logic. Then the internet got hold of him. Zack Morris is trash didn't create the case. It just organized the evidence. Episode by episode, it lined up every scheme, every selfish move, every moment that didn't age well. And once all of that behavior was stacked in one place, the verdict became hard to argue against. Zack wasn't misunderstood. Zack was the problem. What made that even better was Mark Paul Gosselaar. As the character got worse on rewatch, the actor didn't rush in to defend him. He leaned the other way. In interviews, he openly called Zack awful, trash, even morally questionable. So the internet basically dragged Zack Morris into court, and the guy who played him looked at the file and said, "Yeah, that checks out." That only worked because he had distance from the role. Zack aged into a case study in bad sitcom morality. Gosselaar aged into the opposite, grounded, self-aware, and likable enough to admit that the character who made him famous was basically a teenage con artist with perfect hair. The character got worse, the actor got better. Number 2. You hear the voice first. Hey, 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 what is going on here? Then he shows up, and that's the whole joke. Mr. Belding is supposed to be the principal, but half the time he feels like he wandered out of the front office and into the students' lives by accident. He's at the Max, he's tangled in their schemes, he's somehow involved in their dating drama. He doesn't hover over Bayside like authority, he drifts through it like an adult who got absorbed into the group. That's why he worked. Dennis Haskins was only 39 when the show started, which made a difference. He didn't feel distant. He didn't feel like an old-school authority figure. He felt close enough to slide into the rhythm of the kids, and the show leaned into that. Then it pushed even further. Instead of holding him back as a strict principal, the show kept pulling him closer until Belding became less the man in charge and more the adult who's always around when the plot needs one. Back then, that played as warmth. Now it plays very differently. A principal constantly showing up in students' private lives, their hangout spot, their personal drama, it doesn't feel like harmless sitcom charm anymore. It feels like a complete collapse of boundaries. The show treats that access as caring. Modern audiences look at it and think, this isn't normal. That's what makes Belding such a perfect artifact of that era. He's not sinister, he's not written like a creep, he's a very specific kind of sitcom fantasy, the authority figure who stays so close to the kids that the show stops asking if he should. Number 3. People remember Bayside like it arrived fully formed. It didn't. Saved by the Bell was built out of something that failed, then failed again. Before Bayside, before California, before the teen-driven version everyone remembers, the show was Good Morning, Miss Bliss. The idea came from NBC president Brandon Tartikoff, who asked Peter Engel to build a show inspired by one of his teachers. That version centered on the adult. The teacher was the focus. The students orbited around her. It was set in Indiana, slower, softer, more like a family sitcom built around school life. It didn't click. NBC passed, the show moved to Disney Channel. It ran for 13 episodes. It still didn't work. Ratings were weak. It got canceled again. That second failure forced a realization. The problem wasn't Zack, it wasn't Screech, it wasn't Lisa or Belding. The problem was the structure. So Peter Engel made a blunt decision. He stripped away Miss Bliss, aged the kids into high school, moved everything to California, and rebuilt the show around the teens. No transition, no explanation, the old version just disappeared. What remained was Saved by the Bell. It wasn't born as a hit, it was carved out of failure until the right version finally emerged. Number 4. You remember the scene, Jessie falling apart. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I'm so scared. It became one of the most iconic meltdowns in sitcom history, but it wasn't supposed to be about caffeine pills. Originally, Jessie was addicted to speed. That's the real story. That's why the performance feels so intense. The panic, the desperation, the crash, it all makes sense in that context. Then NBC stepped in. Standards and practices wouldn't allow a Saturday morning teen sitcom to go that far. So the drug changed, the story stayed, the emotional intensity stayed. That's why the scene feels oversized. Elizabeth Berkley is playing it like a serious drug breakdown, but the show has to pretend it's caffeine pills. And she never winks at it. She commits completely. That sincerity is why the scene survived. It's not just overacting, it's a darker story barely hidden under a safer label. Number 5. Sometimes Saved by the Bell stopped being a sitcom and tried to save the world. That's when the very special episode showed up. One week it's jokes and hallway chaos, the next week it's homelessness, drugs, or some massive social issue. The tone shifts instantly. Sometimes it worked. Home for Christmas tried to show homelessness as something tied to bad luck and circumstance, not failure. For a young audience, that mattered. Other times it went completely over the top. No Hope with Dope feels like parody. A teen anti-drug star gets caught using drugs, and the kids decide they can fix everything by making their own PSA. It's not subtle. It's loud, blunt, and almost surreal. That's why those episodes stuck. They were sincere, but also wildly overpackaged. Number 6. Saved by the Bell loved performance moments. Dance contests, talent shows, big, exaggerated set pieces. But one scene never left. Slater in black ballet tights. The joke starts with the outfit. Then it shifts. Mario Lopez actually could dance. He wasn't fumbling through it. He was doing it properly. That's what made it last. It wasn't just funny, it had real skill underneath it. Years later, when the cast reunited, that's the moment people wanted back. Number 7. One fight scene didn't feel like acting. Zack and Slater fighting over a girl. Not playful, not exaggerated, just raw. Fans thought it looked real. Because it kind of was. Both actors committed fully. No holding back, no polish, just momentum. That's what made it work. Number 8. The show made millions. The cast didn't. They signed contracts as kids, no leverage, no way to predict long-term success. While the show kept earning through syndication and reruns, they were locked out of that profit. Mark Paul Gosselaar said it simply, they made bad deals. Number 9. Kelly and Jessie disappear. Tori appears, then disappears. Then everything goes back to normal. No explanation. It happened because the network needed more episodes for syndication, and the original actresses didn't return, so the show patched in a new character and moved forward like nothing changed. It's messy, strange, and unforgettable. Number 10. The biggest feud came later. Dustin Diamond's book, Behind the Bell, turned the show's image upside down. Allegations, controversy, and backlash followed.
The cast rejected it. The divide grew. Later, Diamond walked some of it back and apologized. After his death, the reboot honored him. The story ended quietly, with memory softening what conflict couldn't fix. Number 11. The theme song did everything. It didn't just start the show, it sold the world. Fast, bright, safe. The reboot changed the sound, but kept the core idea, because that song was the door into Bayside. Saved by the Bell lasted because it felt easy, then time made it complicated, and somehow that made it last even longer.